I think we should go ahead and get started. It's 9 o'clock. And I'm going to say, hi, everybody. It's Trail Tuesday. And this is Andrea. And I'm not on the Douglas Trail like I usually am for Trail Tuesday. I am so excited to bring you all a special guest live. This is such a fun experiment. So everybody, may I introduce Joe Walewski. He is up near Finland, Minnesota at Wolf Ridge Environmental Learning Center. And he is going to just show us around what there is to see near Wolf and Raven Lake, mostly over walking towards Raven Lake here in a minute. But I just want to thank Joe for being willing to experiment with us. And the whole point of Trail Tuesday is to show what's going on in nature this week and different parts of the state. And sometimes I post something, sometimes Amy Rager posts things from out of Western Minnesota. And once in a while, other folks post too, which is so fun to see. That's my favorite part. And so just to see another part of the state with another set of conditions, like by comparison, we've got what, 3-4 inches of snow here in Rochester. It's a little disappointing. But Joe, tell us what you've got, where you are, and take it away. And I will jump in now and again to remind everybody what we're doing, what we're for those who may come in a little later. But Joe, take it away.
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm at Wolf Ridge right now, and you might be able to see that Marshall Mountain is right up that way. I'm going to head over to Raven Lake, not to Wolf Lake this way. But we just recently got about 8.5 inches of fresh snow, and it ended basically yesterday afternoon, maybe something like that. I sort of lose track of these types of things. But the fact is that we've got about 20 inches of snow on the ground. So I grabbed my snowshoes, came down here, and I decided that rather than meeting you out on Raven Lake, I was going to walk everybody down to Raven Lake. I thought of that this morning because as I came down, I saw a bunch of different signs for grouse and snowshoe hare, and even found a spot where it was obvious that a fisher had been running around where snowshoe hares were also running around. Were they running at the same time or not? I have no clue. But it's a fun story to imagine. Now, part of the reason why I really wanted to walk down right now rather than go down there beforehand is because a couple weeks ago when I came down here to teach a class on animal signs, doing the same sort of thing, I met everybody at Raven Lake, but it was after 3 grouse popped out of the snow and I missed it all. I mean, I didn't miss it all. My students missed it all, right? And so I thought, why don't we see if we can do that? And so between here and Raven Lake in the next couple minutes here is where they were last time. And I know that they frequent the same area because other people have told me that they've spooked them at the same area as well. So odds are sort of in our favor. Now, I know that as I go walking down the trail, this video is going to bop up and down every once in a while. So I apologize if I make anybody seasick. I'm going to do my best to hold it as still as possible. And periodically we'll stop. And what I ask Andrea and Britt is if there are particular questions or interests as I'm going along, just spout off and tell me to stop. I'm gonna start walking and hope for magic on the way here. So,
is it important for you to be quiet as you walk, or should I ask you questions while you walk?
You know, I think that you can ask me questions while I walk.
Okay. Okay.
Periodically, if I see something, I'll let you know.
Okay. Well, this is how Trail Tuesday started, where I just took a video of myself, just what was ahead of me on the trail for about a minute. That was last March. And it's really evolved into, more instruction and more, species highlights and things like that. So I just show us the trail where you're going. Are you on snowshoes?
I'm on snowshoes. I don't know if you can see them right now because I'm just here. Whoa, there we go.
Yep.
But you can see I'm going through a spruce fir forest right now. And gorgeous. The way the snow is just settled on trees right now. These are some of my
beautiful.
Of my favorite days. It's supposed to get really cold in the next few days here. Really cold now. It's funny to think about that. Oh, here we go. Do you see all these tracks around here? Can you see them?
Okay.
I can't hear you. If you can
sorry,
see them.
I see some indentations and maybe some drags. It's hard to tell what exactly they are.
This is generally that place where I saw the snowshoe hares running around and the fishers. And so most everything that I see here, if not everything, is snowshoe hare sign. So maybe we'll snowshoe hare as well.
There you go. If I was a snowshoe hare, that's where I would want to live.
Oh, totally. Yeah. We have such a big population of snowshoe hares around here this year, and grouse actually, more than I can remember in the past for that.
Joe, it's saying your network bandwidth is low, so I can tell you're being a little choppy. So it's all still there. You're still there and still live, so nothing's frozen up. But just so you know.
Yeah, I was wondering if between here and the lake it may get harder.
Okay, yeah. Well, if we drop, we will rejoin just the way we have before, and we'll keep the Facebook Live going as much as we can.
That sounds great. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just try to boogie on down there as quick as possible and get into better Wi-Fi or whatever they call this thing. Cell service.
I'm impressed that y'all have cell service up there in the first place.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, I've come across some fox tracks here now.
Oh.
So let's see if I can do this. Let's see.
You're tapping things. Oh, you're going to switch the camera to the, well, it's okay.
But it seems to not want to do that for me.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and how do you know they are fox tracks?
Well, I'm not going to pull out my measuring tool right now, but the distance between the tracks is part of it, and also the size of the tracks relative to my feet. Now, I always have a hard time telling whether it's going to be gray fox or red fox. I think we have more fox around here, but I know we've got both. And one person told me that if I measured the individual track, that gray fox had bigger paws.
But when the snow is so soft, it's hard. I mean, a measurement is hard to even get with any precision.
Yeah, especially after a puffy snow like this right now.
Right. But you can tell the direction of travel. If you can assess that the animal is walking and not, running or loping, the distance, between some of the tracks will give you a sense for the body length of the animal. Do you want to talk about that for 1 second?
Yeah, that part of it also is I know how soft this snow is, and so it's giving me a sense of how heavy the animal might be. I just passed some deer track, and the deer tracks went much deeper than this tiny little animal right here. But also just the size of this animal, being able to, the distance between its legs, and that gives me a sense. But you're right, as it starts to move along faster, they'll be further along. But right now, this just seems like it was just dragging its feet, just sort of looking around. I'm going to walk up a little bit further and see if anything changes. Maybe it stopped to look around, or who knows. Cool.
Nice. Okay, I love that you can go just a couple of feet and you're finding so much cool stuff. When I take my regular walks on the Douglas Trail, I got to look hard and I maybe find tracks from squirrels, or the mice have been the cool, interesting part, the field mice or whatever. So just another day at Wolf Ridge, you get to see fox tracks. Okay, Joe, you have frozen up. So, I hear you just a little bit. So maybe get a skedaddle, maybe get down to the lake.
I'm going to stop here though. And
okay.
Again, can you keep moving?
Yeah, keep moving. You are really breaking up. But I know that you said you're pretty confident in the bandwidth out at Raven Lake. It's more wide open space and all of that. And so once you get there, it'll be good, I think, right?
Absolutely.
Good. All right. So again, right now, it's a very lovely frozen picture of your face and the spruce forest. So that's what now it's changed. Very good. It's changing, though. It's not so thickly sprucey.
Right.
You must be getting to the lake.
There's quite a few. Yeah, there are quite a few deer tracks right around here as well. I was going to stop there, but.
I did notice a minute ago on Facebook, we do have, I think, 22 people watching. So thanks for coming, everybody. This is Trail Tuesday with the Minnesota Master Naturalist Program. We are live with Joe Walewski up near Finland, Minnesota, and he is showing us around. We've seen fox tracks so far. We've seen snowshoe hare tracks, a beautiful spruce forest. Ooh, there's some more stuff. What do you got, Joe?
So am I coming through okay right now?
Yeah, a little bit better.
So this hole right here is where a grouse was. And I can see wing prints right over here, which may not come through on this, but then those are footprints of the grouse as well. And that this is the spot where I said that 3 grouse have been hanging out quite a bit.
So they bury themselves in the snow?
They just to see some more.
Okay. They bury themselves deep down in the snow? Is that what you're saying? Or they jump into a snowbank, or what's the deal?
Yeah, so what they'll do is they'll be flying along and they'll just sort of pop right into the snow and go underneath. And that around here, I've seen spots where I could obviously see them flying into the snowbank and then sort of burrowing in, or sometimes they'll just hang out in one spot and let the snow fall on top of them. But they'll stay there overnight. That's a warmer, safer place to be overnight. And that in the morning, especially as I go walking around, sometimes I'll scare them out and they'll just poof right out of the snow. And boy, does that scare me.
Yeah, right. Now, would a fox eat a grouse? And so the grouse is hiding from the fox.
Yeah, I think that yeah, fox will, but I think they're a little on the large size for the fox around here, the red fox. Maybe the gray fox as I think about it, but definitely Fisher would eat. And then some of the coyotes, and clearly wolves as well. Yeah.
And you've got all of that whole cohort up there at the ridge.
Oh, this is great. So I'm following some snowshoe hare tracks down to the lake, and we're maybe 1 minute away from the lake. And then I'm seeing red squirrel. I've got some mouse tracks. I got another grouse hole over there, another grouse tracks through here. Raven Lake is such an amazing spot. There's so much life down here. Oh, here's a good spot. Andrea, can you see that?
Yeah, it looks like something sat there. And is that scat at the bottom of the hole there?
It is, and this is a grouse.
Oh, nice.
So then what happened is that if you can see, I'm going to move this slowly, I hope. The grouse went in here and then slept, and then this morning pooped and flew away.
Nice. A little tucked in for the night. Awesome. Joe, while you're walking, would you give us a minute to orient everybody to where exactly you are? If people were to Google, Wolf Ridge and look at some Wolf Ridge maps, I'm not sure they would find exactly where you are. A lot of maps still say Johnson Lake, like if they're looking at Google Maps. So talk for a minute about where you are.
That's a good point. So Wolf Ridge is on the North Shore. We're near Finland, Minnesota. And if you follow Highway 1 up to Highway 6 and you turn along there, you Google Wolf Ridge and clearly it'll take you right there. But just to give you a sort of sense of where the highways are, we're maybe about 3 miles in from Lake Superior. And there are 2 lakes here. We call them Wolf Lake and Raven Lake. And we've been calling them that since 1988. But some of the maps haven't caught up. And so we're about to walk out onto what we call Raven Lake, but it's called Kennedy Lake in some maps. And if you look back even further, it's called No Name Lake. And then the other lake sometimes has been called Johnson Lake or Parnell Lake. People change the names of things all the time. And so they just haven't quite caught up to us and the fact that we call them Wolf and Raven. They will eventually. Okay, I'm thinking that you probably have better connection here already.
A little bit. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So
you see the canoes? We want to get in a boat.
Yeah. Can you see some of the tracks that are here now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here we are, and I'm seeing snowshoe hare tracks and probably this fox again. I'm going to try to get to a spot where we have really good connection and give you a sense of where we're at again. So out on Raven Lake, can you see the beaver lodge right over here?
We see a clump by a tree, a dark spot.
You know what you could do is, if you haven't already given folks that link for the thing link.
Oh yeah, I'm posting that right now, everybody. In the chat of the Zoom meeting, I am pasting a link to something called a thing link, and you're going to click on that link and it will open up a picture that is content rich, we call it. There's a bunch of little plus signs on the picture, and you're going to click on those pictures and it will zoom into what is being seen at each of those spots. And you'll see there's like 20 different embedded something's a piece of information in that picture. So I just posted it in the chat of the Zoom meeting.
So
now we can see that it's a beaver lodge, or it's again a pile of sticks.
Yeah. And there are no tracks right up next to it, but there are fox tracks found out here, and this is one of the landmark diorama, and so you click on images of it from December 8th, 2020, and today you can see that there's snow on top of it. But one of the things entire time coming out here basically once every week is that the top of the lodge has remained relatively snow-free, that there are beavers living in there and their body heat is melting the snow at the top. And we'll get in there a little bit closer to be able to look at some of the frost at the top. But I know that there are some beavers in there, and actually last year at this time there were no beavers on this lake at all. So they've come in just for this winter, which is really fun to see. So I'm curious if people have gotten to the link, and if they've got observations or questions that they want me to go explore. If so, they could put those in the chat, I suppose, or contact Andrea in some way, Andrea and Britt. Thanks for being here, you two.
Oh, this is great. So everybody who is in the Zoom meeting, when you click on the thing link, you're going to go to that picture, look around and say, hey, Joe, will you go over to that one spot over there and we'll see what there is to see. Now, Joe, you took this photograph December something, and so it won't be identical to what was there in December, but what's in the picture is an example, like a diorama of all the amazing things that are to be seen at Raven Lake. So put a comment in the chat of instructions to me, and I'll relay that to Joe. Otherwise, we have 8 people in the Zoom meeting right now, and so you could just unmute if you want and speak directly. But Joe, you've got a reference item there.
Yeah, and I suppose you can see this relatively clear, that the paw prints are right over here, and that we printed these what would be life size. So you can see that wolf paw print and the size of my hand, maybe about the same size. But as you go over here, you start to see that there are, well, this is fox tracks right down here. So much smaller than the wolf, coyote in the middle there. And you can see that there are toe prints for those. But right over on the side there's some cat tracks as well, without the toenails, I should say. And then on the other side here, we use this at Wolf Ridge. Look at that, moose and deer. And then we've got river otter and snowshoe hare way over on the far side. We don't have cottontail rabbits here, so we've got snowshoe hare, really, really big feet right there. So I would use this on occasion, and when we get back out there onto the lake where the fox tracks are, we'll use this to measure, like you were mentioning, now that I'm out here and I have a little bit better cell service. But I want to go over to the Beaver Lodge real quick, and you clue me in if there are particular questions or comments.
So you said, okay, so I'm going to just reiterate what you said. You haven't seen any tracks around, which means nobody's coming out, but also nobody's going in. But they could be going out, and we just couldn't see it. Would it be under the snow? Is there in the summer? Is there enough water there that they could swim?
Yeah, absolutely. So the beavers themselves during this time of year wouldn't come out onto the land. It's just too cold. It's too hard to move around. Predators would be able to get them. They're mostly sleeping. But where I was standing just moments ago, there are lots of sticks that are sticking out of the ice. Those are all sticks that the beavers dragged from the woods, put right there. That's their little kitchen for the entire winter. It's a little food cache where they put that, and then they can swim from here under the water, go to their kitchen over there, get some food, fill up again, and then come back. And it's that cambium, that growing layer of the sticks that they're getting the nutrition from, not the wood itself. That's just stuff.
It's just in the way. It just happens to be there.
It happens to be there, yeah. So with the conditions, it's been so warm, I'm not seeing any frost at the top. If it was colder, we would definitely see some frost at the top. And there are no tracks of other animals coming around here, but I'm going to bring you back here. So you can see their kitchen right here.
Oh, yeah. Now,
So
if you
all...
had not seen this in the summer and known that that was open water normally, you would say, oh, it's just a marshy area and there's a bunch of shrubby things.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And so knowing the story of the landscape means that you got to keep going over the seasons and be able to see how it changes and have a sense of what's going on underneath here. I know that I'm standing literally on the shoreline right now, and that's out in the pond. And I'm calling Raven Lake a pond because it's about 7 feet deep at the deepest, and it's really not that big. It's a shame we call it a lake.
If it can float a boat.
There you go. There you go. So hey, I'm going to go out to the fox tracks right now and do a little measurement, and we're going to try to get a sense of this one.
Awesome. Awesome. Actually, there's too much interest right here. Do you see these tracks, sort of? Yep. See that there's on the a little bit further to the right of our screen, there's a set of tracks where one depression is much larger than the other depression. And we've been talking a little bit in other Trail Tuesday videos about how one animal may have feet that are of very different sizes. Is that what I'm seeing? Absolutely. And so this is a snowshoe hare. And that as the snowshoe hare is moving along, I'll move you up a little bit closer too. There you go. Oh my gosh. See? Compared to your hand, then we get a sense for just how big that depression is. Let's see here. Put this right next to it as well. Can you see all that? Yep. And that's maybe not fresh since the snow stopped. Maybe it was mid-storm because you can see there's some snow filled in on top of the tracks. Absolutely. Yeah. And I can also tell because of the way that they hop that their back feet actually make an imprint in front of their front feet when they're hopping and moving. And that's what this one is right here. So this was moving along. Plus, you can see that here, I'll come back up here, that as we do this, can you see my snowshoe? Wow. And, yeah. And then the next one is way up there. That's a far distance. That's about 5 feet. A snowshoe hare's body is not 5 feet long, so it was at a clip. It was totally moving. It was not interested in staying out here very long at all. Where it's vulnerable and exposed to whether it's I don't know, an owl, or depending on time of day, or a predator of any sort. Yeah. Okay, so these are bigger. Okay, so I don't know if you can see some of this as well. It's sort of hard for me. I'm not necessarily adept at this, but I'm thinking I'm seeing coyote tracks here. Can you see? Because they look too big for a fox, is what you're saying? Yeah. Yeah. It's going a lot deeper, and the distance in between is much longer. So I can measure this. Oh, sure. Is about 20 inches. So let's see here. Coyote. The stride is 13 to 16 inches, whereas a fox would be about 10 to 13 inches or so. And so it's much bigger, much bigger print, bigger stride.
And I think this was moving along relatively fast, I suppose. So it's a little bit bigger.
Yeah.
I think that this is Coyote. And
Nice.
it's cruising along. Oh, this is really fun.
This is fun. And now it's a coyote that might well have lunch on a snowshoe hare, or maybe a beaver, if it could get it, but the beaver, not so much.
Yeah. So I think it was maybe about 10, 12 years ago, we had beavers that came out to Raven Lake here and they built a lodge, not in the exact same spot, but during the middle of winter, class came down here and the lodge was ripped apart and there were no side. And that
Whoa.
a week earlier, there was a group out here and it was completely whole. And so we guessed that wolves probably got into it and broke it apart.
Whoa.
There.
Wow. So it's not a guarantee of safety, but that wolf must have worked pretty hard.
I'm guessing it must have been really hungry.
Yikes. Because beaver lodges are normally pretty substantial. And there is a question on Facebook about the beavers, set up shop for the winter. They would have shown up sometime in the summer to build that lodge, right? It's
Yep.
they had to come from somewhere.
Yeah, and they actually built this. Are you still there?
We're here. We see your name now, not your face.
I have no idea what happened.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's weird.
Yeah, I'm going to try to come back here.
Well, don't do anything. There you go. You're good. We see you now.
Lovely.
That was weird.
All right.
And again, somehow the beaver have to know the lay of the land. They have to know this is a lake that no other beavers are on, or maybe they are, and that there's enough food here, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and they've been spending more time back behind that way over the past several years. So either the family decided to move or they got bigger and part of their family came out here. Who knows, actually.
They dispersed.
But they dispersed. And so these didn't come out during the summer. They came out in the fall and they worked really fast to build this lodge. They didn't have to build a dam. So I guess they put all their efforts into the lodge. Whereas if they were back on a smaller body of water, they'd have to build a dam as well as a lodge.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. And so again, finishing the question out that came in through Facebook, you said you can see frost at the top of a beaver lodge. Again, that's because where they build the sticks and mud, they leave an open space where exhaust can come out like a chimney. But do muskrats do that too?
Yeah, we don't have much muskrat activity around here, so I'm not as familiar with exactly how muskrat, except that I do know that they will use abandoned beaver lodges as well as a variety of other places. At least that's what I read once. I don't have personal experience because we just don't have many muskrats around here. Beavers are the main animal like that on our bodies of water.
But I imagine that if, say, there's a master naturalist out there in the world that has a muskrat lodge at a wetland they walk past commonly, take note when there's a thin layer of snow because there will be a dark spot where it's melted more. So I bet there's somebody in our audience who maybe has taken note of such a thing, or you didn't know that's what you were seeing. But if you're locked away in a shelter for long periods of time, not even the whole winter, you got to have some air exchange, right? Not only does the muskrat next to you maybe stink a little bit, but you need to release your carbon dioxide and you need to get oxygen, and all that's going to come with a little heat, a little bit of moisture, and so that's what creates those frosts. Joe, last week's Trail Tuesday, I talked about little hidey holes where you could see if something inside is in there respirating, where you can see a little layer of frost. I might well have learned that from you, but we looked at a few different hidey holes that I could find in my Trail Tuesday, so that for those who watched that Trail Tuesday last week, this is the very same concept. Something inside a enclosed space is breathing, releasing a little bit of heat, a little bit of moisture, and that creates a little ring of frost or rime around the edge. And then that's a cue that humans can look at to see that there's something in there living.
Yeah, 2 weeks ago, it actually did get cold, got down below zero. And I was noticing some holes that were about squirrel size and there were lots of frost around those. That was really, and I've had a little bit more time this winter to get out and really slow down. And now that there are kids here and me trying to kids, I slow down a little bit more. And I think that's one of the key things for us to remember as naturalists is that we need to slow down. So often we move along, we're just moving fast to get to the next thing. But if we slow down, we can see so much like that frost. Yeah.
Right, right. And just getting to know one spot over and over again, whether it's as cool as Raven Lake or if it's the little marsh or honestly, it's a stormwater retention pond, which is near where I am, but just knowing what's normal, what's expected so that you know what's not normal, what's not common. The other thing that I've been talking a little bit about in Trail Tuesday is just getting to know a little bit of animal behavior, what's normal, what's expected, that it's kind of odd for beavers to show up in the fall. And then thus the amount of work that happened was a lot to do. And if you also know that it would be common for them to build a dam to raise the water level so they can build it helps you understand just the wow of what you've been seeing. Someone's also has asked, how often do beavers move, as in move from home to home? I think is where I would go with that question.
Yeah, well, I do know that when a beaver is 2 years old, mama beaver says, go, 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 take off. And so then they go off and they may travel overland or they may travel within the body of water if it's a river or something like that and go to a new spot and search for their own home area. So they'll live with the mom and the dad beaver for a couple of years and then take off. But our experience is that they'll generally hang out in northern Minnesota where we're at. They'll generally hang out there in that general area for the rest of their life. They may move along if the food supply is down. And so I've seen them on our creek, Sawmill Creek, where they'll be moving up and down, but they don't move all that far, the same family.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So it's mom and dad's house and the young, move away, go to college, get your own job, go get your own habitat. So
yeah, which is fun. As I think about it, during a particular winter, they may have the young of the year that they had as well as the 1-year-olds. And at the end of that, then when they essentially 2 years old, that particular summer is when they get kicked out of the house. Go find your own home.
Because by then they'll have had a third batch of kits. And so we can't have 3, cohorts of babies here. There's not enough room in the house.
And I'm trying to remember the number right now. I think they can have maybe about 8 or 9 babies at the max. And so clearly that doesn't happen all the time, but let's just go with like 4 or 5, right? Let's just go with 4. And if they've got 4 of the first batch, 4 of the second batch, and mom and dad, that's 10 beavers in that lodge.
And if some half of them got eaten by a coyote or a wolf or something, but still, that's still plenty. That's too many mouths to feed people, too many trees to find, too much cramped space in the lodge.
Yeah. Hey, I want to point one more thing to you, that this cliff that's right over here that you can see, that big cliff there's a raven nest on there. And 2 weeks ago when I was out here with some folks, we were pointing out the raven's nest, which I'm not going to be able to point out to you right now. I don't have the right tools. But as we were talking about that, we were like, okay, it's about time for the ravens to start courting and to set up their and it's not too long before they're actually going to be laying eggs in February around here, and that then they'll hatch in March. And I think about that with all the snow and ice around here, and they're laying eggs. Well, while we were talking to them, the 2 ravens came flying around courting just exactly on time. They're not doing that today.
Wow. Again, because you've seen this happen, you know what to expect, you know what you're looking for.
Yeah. And I would be shocked if at some point today they come flying along here and maybe land on the cliff up there, just courting, and then also just making sure that this territory remains theirs. But I'm not hearing anything right now. It's pretty quiet.
Nice. Well, and as a little bit more time passes since the end of the most recent snowfall, there will be more and more sign, more and more activity. On a sunny day, the activity level may be different from on an overcast day, or if it's super windy, or once it gets super cold. I thought it was funny. You said it got started to get cold. It's only 0. I'm like, oh, okay. Everybody else in the world thinks that's already cold, but okay.
I'll make a quick comment on that. Is that our forests up here are dependent upon a series of -40 nights in order to kill off the emerald ash borer, for example. Anything that don't belong here, right? And that been quite some time since we've had -40 around here, and I worry about all of our black ash that's up here and the emerald ash borer moving in, or any other kind of invasive species.
A fungus, anything.
Yeah, so -40 temperatures is sort of the magic number that a lot of folks key into, and we haven't had those. It's just been too warm. This winter has been so so warm. Oh my gosh. The ice on the lake is maybe only about 18 inches thick. It should be well over 2 feet by now. But it's pretty.
And even creatures like possums and raccoons do I remember that right? They're not common up there, but as it gets warmer, they can move further north, and that changes the ecosystem significantly. And again, raccoons and possums are native. It's not like we can tell them to get out, but that's a sign of climate change, that species expand their range or shift their range, and that becomes a huge ecological change. It's not necessarily damage or destruction. It's just ecological change, which humans might be sad about. For nature, it just is, but it's a significant change to the plants and animals that are there.
And what's interesting is that we have these teleconnections between the different groups of organisms, right? That animals can move around within a given year or within a given decade, whereas oak trees, they don't run up all that fast, right?
They're stuck.
That teleconnection is different. And so the animals be dependent upon certain plants. They may not be there quite, or some of the plants that can't survive those warmer temperatures, they may start to die off, but the new plant species might not be there quite yet. So there's that awkward teenage phase, I suppose, right?
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And that's sort of an asynchrony that happens.
Yeah, and what I've been learning is that some of our county foresters have been planting red oak around here in anticipation of what will be coming, that they wanted to leapfrog our forests to what is anticipated.
Oh, they're living in the future. Somebody who plants trees, right, is living in the future. That's smart.
Yeah. You know, the best time to plant a tree was 50 years ago. So that mentality they're going under.
That's good. Because 50 years from now, we'll be like, why didn't we do that? Oh, because we were denying that our forest was going to change. Sure, climate change is happening, but I don't want my forest to change. That would be hard. That would be hard. Okay, one last question that's come in about how much area a beaver family requires, as in, can there be more than one lodge on a lake?
Oh, wow. Yeah, so our lakes are small enough around where I'm at right now that I've only ever seen one lodge on a lake around here. But I know some really big lakes can have multiple lodges, of course. I suspect that it's more of a food source as to whether we're able to have that. So it might not be actually the lake that is the limiting factor for the number of lodges, but the food shed, I'm going to call it, not just the watershed, but food. And so I'm avoiding the answer because I don't quite have that for around here. And I'm hopeful that somebody who has Google could Google that.
Well, I bet some grad student somewhere calculated the area that it takes to support X habitat to support X beavers. I hope some grad student got a master's degree out of that.
Yeah. And of course, you know, if that forest is mostly balsam fir and white spruce, then that's good food. If it's aspen, balsam, poplar, those of things, willow, then there's great food. So it not only is the area, but actually the food source. What is it that's there too? Yeah, I think that's a great question. I don't know the answer.
You had a lot of bits around the answer though. So, and the bits around the answer I think are even more interesting than a 5 acres. Like that doesn't help me. Like how to think about those 5 acres. Good. Okay. Well, I know we're getting on time, and I know you need to go, and you gotta hoof it back up to your, the rest of your life. You're the dreaded computer life. So, any wrap up you want to say?
Yeah, 2 things. One is that later this afternoon, I'm going to be back down here teaching of 6th graders someplace. They're in Minnesota someplace. I think they're around the Monticello area. And so it's really fun. So I get to come down here. So I'm actually going to take about 10-15 minutes and go and see what else I can find now that I have that chance. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I would love to connect with you again at some point, whether that be to check out the ravens and have the proper tools so we can zoom in and listen and see them, because I have tools for amplifying our ears and our eyes. But then also Lake Superior might be a fun spot to go. Maybe some bird band We've got all kinds of different things I'd love to do with you. And like I was already telling you, this feeds my soul. And so I'd really love to be able to do these types of things because it's fun to be able to join people and share the stories.
Excellent. And if, 20 people can join you and me having our hearts filled, I mean, it's all good. I love to talk about the Northwoods. I'm so envious. I want to feel that cold air on my face. I want to tromp around in that snow. So it makes me want to have adventures. So thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. And if you find something cool, take a picture of it and you can either email it to me or I'll post it on our Facebook page in case anybody doesn't get to see it. So I'll want to say thank you everybody for joining us for Trail Tuesday. Thanks so much to Joe Walewski at Wolf Ridge Environmental Learning Center up on the North Shore of Minnesota. And you know what to do, everybody. You're going to post your comments, post your own Trail Tuesday videos and still images in the comments to this post. And we can't wait to see what's happening where you are in nature. So thanks everybody for joining us. Thank you so much to Joe. I'm going to stop the recording.